We just came back from the November 1st CSU board meeting, and we have summarized the important things to update you students about. So let's get into it. What happened at this board meeting? There were some typical items under the consent agenda, like excuse for absences for today's meeting and for the annual general meeting. But one item that stood out was approval for funds for a volleyball tournament. We have that to look forward to. That should be exciting. The next item that got approved is the Community Cupboard Endowment Fund. So the motion read, be it resolved that the Board of Directors approve the Community Cupboard Endowment Fund gift agreement and release up to $25,000 from prior year's surplus to support fundraising efforts by matching donations. One of the annual goals for this year is a fundraiser for food security to increase financial resources towards food security programming, provide more food on campus for students experiencing financial need. This would be on the recommendation of the Finance and Audit Committee to create an endowment fund. Once the board creates this endowment fund, the interest that it generates will be revenue for the CSU to put towards food security. So an endowment fund is a fund that generates interest every year. The $25,000 that are being taken from the prior year's surplus fund will be put into this endowment fund. The interest revenue that's generated from the principal, which is typically between 3 to 5% each year, will go directly towards purchasing food security resources for the community cupboard and other food security initiatives. CSU has been in conversation with the university's philanthropy and alumni department for them to actually make the endowment fund the subject of their year-end appeal, which is going to go to the alumni and donors of the university around the end of the calendar year, which is when people want to maximize their donations to take advantage of the tax benefits. The money being taken from the accumulated surplus fund would allow the CSU to match donations to make it more attractive for donors during the year-end appeal and at the upcoming Food Security Gala fundraiser. If one person were to donate $500, the CSU would match that and donate another $500, making the total donation $1,000 towards food security resources. This is a new initiative that the CSU has undertaken. There hasn't been a food security endowment fund before, but the CSU has doubled its budget for food security this year compared to last year. So that passed unanimously, so that's very exciting. We'll be having some more resources towards food security for students in financial need. The next item that got approved is the Whistler trip in 2025. The board approved $10,697 from the Recreation and Events account. This trip would include Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, includes group transport, 2-night occupation with double occupancy, social events, a tubing activity, and the option to upgrade their ticket if they wish to ski or snowboard. So the cost for this is $350 per student. And the typical cost for a lift ticket in Whistler is like $318 plus tax. So this is quite a good deal for students who want to go on a Whistler trip because you get like all the activities, the accommodations, the transport up there for $350. So the last time that the CSU did a Whistler trip, they had spots for 30 students. This year they increased it to 50 students with only a $50 increase per student in ticket cost. The next item that was discussed was the attendance of Anmol Sharma. So at the last CSU board meeting, Anmol Sharma has been given a 2 weeks notice for removal from the board because they had 6 unexcused absences in total. When a director is being given notice for removal from the board always offers them the opportunity to speak about it before it gets voted on. This audio recording is what Anmol Sharma had to say about their lack of attendance and the removal from the board.
I wanna know, tell you for 2 or 3 meetings I have an employment reason for that, but unfortunately I wasn't able to, I wasn't able to report it. But for the first 2 meetings I was not able to join Slack, and I was not aware about it, to be honest. I even tried. After that I got know about Slack after 2 meetings. Then I totally took 2 meetings in process. After that I made one holiday for the 2 holidays in which I got an emergency. And after that, maybe to the dates I can mention that I was not there is just a second. Yeah, for the day of October 18, I was traveling, and that's why I was not able to attend that meeting. When I talked about it, but I didn't got a chance to talk about it, so that's why.
The board member, Priya McMurtry, asked for some information from the executive director, confirming if Anmol has not sent any regrets for the meetings that they have missed, and they have not sent any regrets for those meetings. The Board of Governors representative, Sophia Cara, also requested some information, asking if they were in attendance for the Loon Lake Retreat on June 4th, 5th, and 6th, and they were. At the Loon Lake Retreat, all the board members get all kinds of training on board procedures, running meetings, making reports, and generally like what the board of directors does. They said the reason that they missed the meetings without sending regrets was because they didn't have access to Slack or their email, but you're told about all of these procedural things at the Loon Lake Retreat. Sophia Cara asked another question, asking that if he didn't have access to Slack or email, has he reached out to CSU staff at all? And this is what he had to say in response to that.
Just a minute, I can... Actually, first, when I received, after our first meeting, I came across, the meetings are on, start date, so I got my email after that, and after that, I got an issue with the password, but somehow I messaged, but I messaged them from my Capilano account, student account, so maybe there may be no record of it, so I can't...
To clarify, just because it's a little bit...
Can you please be more specific? What Sophia is asking, she's asking that have you informed any of the staff member regarding your attendance, that you're not going to attend the meetings?
No.
Okay.
When you're unable to attend a meeting, you're expected to send regrets saying why you can't attend the meeting and just informing the board that you won't be there. This is required in order to be counted as an excused absence. If you don't do this, then it's an unexcused absence. All it is sending a 2-line email to the board informing them that you won't be there and the reasons why. There were 6 meetings that Anmol Sharma has had where he didn't send this 2-line email to inform the board he won't be there. So when it came time to vote, the board members Sagar, Jaskirat, Arpan, Dilkaran, and Ekam all voted against removing Anmol Sharma from the board without giving a very good reason in the public session. The people who voted in favor of removing Anmol Sharma were Sophia Cara, Shruti, Prince, and Priya. So as you can see for the voting, there are 3 executives who voted against removing a board member for non-attendance. Priya McMurtry moved to go into a confidential session after this voting had ended. Arpan voted against moving into a confidential session. However, the majority were in favor of this, so they went into a confidential session that lasted about half an hour. So the next item on the agenda was some updates to the elections and procedures. So this was just changing some of the wording in the policy to make it more understandable and to reflect what's already being done. That brings us to the report section of the agenda. You might remember at this board meeting 2 weeks ago that the chair of the governance committee was required to resubmit their governance committee report due to the quality of the report. And the board said that they could resubmit this in 2 weeks without any consequences. So the chair of the governance committee asked the arts and science representative, Sanjit Kaura, to review this report and submit it on his behalf. However, when asked about this, Sanjit Kaura said that he was requested to help review the report, but was not requested to submit the report on his behalf. It's also the responsibility of the committee chair to make and submit these reports. Committee chairs receive an additional honorarium for chairing committees, and their responsibilities are making the agendas and distributing the agendas, leading the meetings, as well as providing the reports for the board. That is their primary responsibility. The executive director did not receive a report from Navjot or from anyone else on Navjot's behalf. Sanjit never had a conversation where he was told he was supposed to submit the report. He was only asked to review it in an informal conversation. But this raises concerns about board members putting their work onto other board members who aren't responsible for that. Committee chairs are the ones responsible for making their own reports and submitting it to the board, and if they need additional support, they should be asking staff for support and not putting that work onto other board members who do not receive additional compensation for this. Committee chairs receive additional compensation for making these reports and leading the meetings. At the last CSU board meeting, the board of directors directed the committee chair to resubmit this report with no late consequences. However, this report was not submitted. The consequence for not submitting a report is to have your pay withheld. However, because of payroll timelines, Navjot has already received his honorarium as a CSU board member and as a committee chair. Because of the timing of payroll, he still got paid. And because of the timing of this would require the board to put forward a motion to deduct that pay back from Navjot that has already been received. When asked to speak to this is what Navjot had to say.
Yeah, I just want to say that I already submitted my report to Chris. I think I submitted it on Tuesday or Wednesday by email.
The executive director asked Navjot to forward the original email thread back to the executive director. The executive director received a new email from Navjot that didn't include the original thread. So Navjot said that he sent the new report over on the 28th of October. However, this was not actually shared with the executive director's email address. It was only shared with Sanchit's email address. So when the executive director finally received the proper email thread forwarded to him, this email thread only included Sanchit sending the report to Navjot, and the executive director was not included in this email thread at all. So when the executive director finally got the report sent to him, he had to request access to this report, and when looking at the editing history, Navjot had not edited this report at all. It was only Sanchit in the editing history. So the executive director only got sent this report during the board meeting when any agenda items, including different events or committee reports or board member reports, they need to be submitted to the agenda 3 days before the meeting so that it can be properly circulated. Otherwise, it'll be counted as a late addition to the agenda that can still be accepted. However, this was sent in the middle of the meeting where it should have been sent beforehand. So Sanchit is the only one who authored this report. Navjot didn't edit this report at all, and it was done between 10:27 and 11 p.m. on the day the report is due. In response to this, Sanchit said that they were sitting next to each other and it was done through Sanchit's laptop, and that is why it appears that way. After this conversation, Sophia Kara motioned for the board meeting to go into a confidential session again, but this time without staff. So this is the second confidential session. In total in this meeting, there were 3 confidential sessions, and this was the second confidential session of that meeting, which lasted approximately 15 minutes. After they came back into a public session, there was a motion put forward by Priya McMurtry to deduct the pay due to the report being late. This was seconded by Sophia. So when it went back into the conversation, Navjot claimed that he did the report and submitted it on time. So the executive director went into Google Workspace to verify this. So the motion that was put forward was that the Board of Directors order that Navjot Buttar's director pay for the month of October be revoked. So after checking the audit log in Google Workspace to see if it was shared, the executive director also checked if there was any visibility changes to the reports. And after going through the system to see if there were any permission changes or if it was sent from a different account, the executive director confirmed that he had only received the report today on November 1st. Navjot said he would send a screenshot to the executive director that shows the date and time that this report was sent. And the screenshot contained an email from Sanchit to just Navjot on October 28th that did not include the executive director. But Sophia Kara moved a motion that for the month of October that Navjot's pay be revoked. So for the voting, it was favored by Prince, Sophia Kara, Priya McMurtry, Shruti Kartikia, and Mavis Bigaby. And it was voted against by Sarangdeep Singh. There were a lot of people who didn't vote in this motion. In particular, the people who voted against removing Anmol Sharma from the board did not participate in this vote at all. So because the majority voted in favor of this, Navjot Buttar will be losing his pay for the month of November. After this, it moved into a third confidential session. After the third confidential session ended, it went back into a public meeting, and soon after that, the meeting was adjourned. That is everything that happened on the November 1st CSU board meeting. We will be back in 2 weeks from now to let you know what happens at the next meeting.